Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another fantastic episode of Last Minute Kickout. I, as always, am the magnificent Pete Titans Creed Nethercoat. We do have a special guest today. His name is Mr. Greg Hahn of spectacular fame on the internet. Hello, Greg. How you doing today?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you here, especially as your first guest. May you come back again down the line, or anything else. We'll work something out. But joining me, as usual, are my cohorts in podcasting crime. One, Mr. Kevin, the Kevin Eva.
Yes, hello.
And as usual, the paragon of DDP Yoga, one, Mr. John Turbo Finley. How you doing, sir?
How you doing? I'm doing fan-dabby-dozy.
Fan-dabby-dozy. That's lovely to hear. So, it's another podcast, which means another WWE pay-per-view has come and gone. And today we are talking about the Royal Rumble 2019. General thoughts around the room, guys, before we break it down? How'd you feel? Greg, tell us. What do you think of the Royal Rumble?
I mean, all in all, it was a pretty enjoyable show, especially on the WWE main roster scale. I mean, if you're comparing it to TakeOver the night before, sorry, but not living up to the standards. But that's pretty far for the course. Yeah. So I'm gonna say I'm leaning on the positive end for the Royal Rumble.
I would definitely agree with you there, Greg, because I actually did enjoy the main card, quite a bit actually. There was quite a lot of good stuff. There was still silly stuff. There's always got to be silly stuff on it, and some very questionable things. But no, overall, yeah, I thought it was all right.
Same for me, actually. I haven't seen TakeOver yet, although, as usual, I hear it is the most amazing thing that ever happened in the history of the world.
Yeah, it is.
But, yeah, I think this will probably be the first episode in about, 3 or 4 months where we won't have many complaints about the order of the card, potentially.
I would agree with that. I'd also say that there was one match in my estimation which was not as good as the others, but I think there's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
But we'll start on something I didn't watch, but the rest of the team has watched, and that was the pre-show. I think, John, you watched Kev, you watched the tag match, didn't you?
Yes, for once, we have all watched parts of the pre-show, everybody. I know it's astounding. So we started things off with Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, and they were up against Razor of Authors of Pain, with Drake Maverick, of course, and Scott Dawson of The Revival, because, half of AOP was injured, and they needed some way of moving things along, and also probably making The Revival feel wanted. So we had this sort of thrown together thing. Drake Maverick explained the situation, and it was what you would expect, really, for a kick-off tag match, in that it kind of was a bit lacking in atmosphere, not really helped by the fact that, the whole pay-per-view was in, it was outdoors, baseball stadium, so it had that going against it, and when there's not many people in there and it's still filing in, it loses the atmosphere even more than it would do normally. So it was general back and forth. Not much of note went down. Basically the pair of them, because of this thrown together nature and covering for the injury with AOP. The deal was if they won, then both sets of teams would get title opportunities later down the line. So naturally they lost. But you don't want your tag team champions losing to a makeshift team. It was what you would come to expect. Lots of good tag team work, actually. Lots of tags in and out, very very quick. They really kept Gable away. They really went all out to keep Gable away from a tag. It was even more so than what you would have normally. So when the hot tag came through, it did mean something, and you got a reaction from the audience, which was at that point an astounding achievement. But eventually it broke down with the makeshift team. There was some miscommunication. Razor got tossed out and didn't get back in to prevent the pin in time, and He and Drake were very upset with Scott Dawson. Scott Dawson was very upset with Razor, and Bob Roode and Chad Gable collected their paycheck and went home. It was pretty much it, just under 7 minutes, and what you would come to expect for a tag team match like that on the pre-show.
John or Greg? I don't think you watched this one, did you? The tag match you joined in for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, granted, the only thing I remember notably from that tag match was the botch of at the entrance where the camera fell over as Roode and Gable came down the aisle, and it was like, just a what? But, no, I can't remember anything else after that.
Look, Kevin Dunn's being experimental with these new angles, Turbo. That's what he's doing. He's taking the Dutch angle and making it even more so.
Well, I mean, granted, it's probably in the same caliber as that one cameraman from, what was it, Spring Stampede 94, I think, from WCW or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Well done if you remember that. Anyone else watching this? that one cameraman.
Or Starcade, I can't remember.
Fair enough. Well, I think something that grabbed a few more people's attention was the United States Championship, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev. Who wants to start off on this one, lads? Because I think most of you will watch this one.
Oh yeah, the last year's Royal Rumble winner on the pre-show. It's worked out well.
That's
for him,
kind of a sad place for him to land after winning the Rumble last year, and now he's on the pre-show. I mean, at least he won the match. But, Shinsuke Nakamura's WWE run has been a little...
lackluster?
Lackluster is definitely the word.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I mean, this hot-shotting between the US title between Rusev and himself is not what we were expecting of Shinsuke Nakamura, especially since last year. Because last year he was, super hot. And, we were all vouching that he would... get the WWE Championship and whatnot, but nope, they wanted to keep it on AJ.
So it just feels like since because they had to have a heel versus AJ is what they wanted.
Yeah,
of course.
Shinsuke obviously bit the bullet on that one, but since he's done that, he's obviously gone downhill. And ever since he's won the US title, to give him, obviously, I presume was the payoff for going heel to begin with. They just don't seem to know what they're doing with A, Shinsuke, and B, the US title. I thought putting it on Rusev was good, but I don't understand the idea to fling it back to Shinsuke.
Isn't that WWE's modus operandi anyway? They don't know what to do with Shinsuke Nakamura. They don't know what to do with the US title.
No, go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a problem. But, the truth is their roster is beyond bloated. Like, they have the most talented roster they've ever had and the largest roster they've ever had. What to do with a lot of people, and unfortunately Shinsuke Nakamura is one of those guys where you expected, you saw him in New Japan prior to his WWE run, and even in NXT when they brought him into there, and he was just killing it, and he seemed like he'd be on top of the world. And you bring him in, and there's just kind of like a lot of guys are lost in the middle. Shinsuke, who's one of the most charismatic Japanese wrestlers, he's fallen into that as well.
Yeah,
he was really hot fire in NXT from what I got told as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that
two-time champion.
Yeah, that tends to be the case for a lot of the guys that have been being called up into the main roster. It's like Samoa Joe, Finn Balor. What's the more?
EC3's off to a great start.
Yeah, it's
like backstage cameos.
Yeah, I'm surprised he wasn't a face in the Rumble as well, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. There was some interesting additions and some interesting missing faces in that on both sides actually.
Well, I do have a question. Do you three gentlemen all watch NXT?
Yeah, I do. I watch it regularly.
Okay,
I don't. I basically clip watch on YouTube. That's
okay. So the question is NXT as background story driven by writers as the main WWE roster? Because if it's not, and it's all here's your idea, you've got, because the base idea of NXT, from my knowledge, after it went through that base fucking game show thing and it became its own thing, was it was meant to be the proper divisional idea for talent to learn how to go. So they came up with most of their own ideas, their entrance themes and videos and promo videos, and go about that way. So is NXT as writer story driven as the main roster? Because if it's not, then that could be part of the problem.
Well, Greg could probably back me up on this. One of their key angles over the summer period, or like, autumn period going into the winter, was the storyline of who attacked Aleister Black, which was the kayfabe storyline that tried to cover up Aleister Black's injury during that time. And it was wrapped around of who did this. And it's like, and there were so many names coming around into these backstage segments where they're getting interviewed by William Regal in the back. And then it would all accommodate, and then Nikki Cross knew something, and she was teasing who she knew and what. It was
I know.
Yeah, so
I know.
So they do that kind of like storyline angles on NXT. It's just more refined.
My question was, are they driven by a bloated writing team as much as the main roster?
No, definitely not. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a very small writing team on NXT, but they're also in an advantage because it's a long show, and they shoot it 4 episodes at a time. So there's not, first of all, there's just, they have to kind of focus a little bit more, and when they shoot it, they go, all right, this is our next month of television, so it's all done at once. There's no opportunity to change your mind week to week, like I've read that Vince McMahon does regularly with the main roster. There's just like there's a writer's room theoretically. They get the work done, they shoot it all, and it's all just one ongoing, uninterrupted, actually get to follow through with, because they did it all at once, and they keep the episodes nice and tight at an hour.
So because everything's
kind of a big advantage,
So because everything's already all pre-signed off and they record it in a big bunch, they have your storyline for the next month. They have essentially a month to write the next thing. Whereas, as you've said, and I've read as well quite recently, I believe, about the whole story writing process, well, they have an idea, they take it, they've got to get it all to Vince and get it all signed off, and by the time we get rolled round to Monday, then Vince has changed his mind on the whole thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. the difference with NXT is that you've got, because obviously Trips is overseeing everything, but he's very heavily involved with all the people on their journey from when they come through the door to the show, and he's overseeing the shows, and he's a bit like Vince was back in the day in that sense, in that he was super hands-on, so he knows the direction and from the get-go and the end position, and he's talking with the people at the performance center and working on things that side. So as a result, we get something more of a more polished product in a way, because it's more controlled from the get-go, but you've still got the performers being able to put forward their ideas and work on it with the people they're trying to impress.
Yeah, and because it's a shorter kind of like production, it makes it a lot easier to have it presented on TV or on the WWE network. So.
It's an interesting point, because as far as I'm aware, it's one writing group overseeing both Raw and SmackDown. I'm not even sure if they.
I think it's two writing groups with sort of an oversight from.
Because
above.
Way back when they first did this brand split, way back in the day, didn't they also have separate writing teams for both Raw and SmackDown?
Yes, because that was one of the things that.
Heyman was the lead writer.
Because Heyman treated it like it's War. And that's why they were deliberately trying to outdo Raw, and why they helped to succeed in outdoing Raw with the SmackDown 6 and everything that went on with that. I hate to do a Pete, but we've gone some way from the Royal Rumble.
Heavily
I'd love to talk about NXT another day, and
maybe we'll make an extra cast at some point. But it's an idea. Sorry, you guys talk about the US Championship.
Well, most notably for this match is we're going back to the Lana is random task again. It's like. It's like getting her shoes off and pointing. This is for the finish and whatnot. To calling out Nakamura is like, "You're cheating! You're cheating!" for just pointing her shoe at him, not throwing it and getting the DQ. But no, that was enough to kind of like distract or be the distraction for Shinsuke. But then Rusev would inadvertently attack Lana and injure her, which would lead up to later in the night, and Nakamura took advantage with the Kinshasa. And
I
get the
would
win.
be really disappointed if the reason Rusev lost the title was because of how they wanted the build to SmackDown, the Royal Rumble.
Well, they kind of put themselves in the corner because you couldn't have Nakamura lose that match because of what we said previously. Because if the guy who won the Royal Rumble last year then not only is on the pre-show but loses on the pre-show, you kind of damage Nakamura.
Yeah, he's
a point.
You know, he was already in the ground already. Anything could have easily just put that soil and end it all there. But no, they needed to get him back out of that hole and get up a little bit more. And giving him the title is the next Well,
Why
the
not swap
logical
it?
step. So
Why not swap it? Considering title changes later were, I think, face or face.
Sorry, what was the question, Kev?
I think all the title changes later were all face, so you end up having a heel win. So
Yes,
slightly balanced it out.
but we'll talk about those. No, okay, yeah.
But it was a good match.
It was a decent match overall. Just obviously typical things.
Nakamura's delight of Lana's pointing though was great. It was like yes, I am dangling over the turnbuckle and doing it.
Absolutely. Greg, I'll let you lead off on the next one. From what I am led to believe is the highlight of the kickoff show, the Cruiserweight Championship of Buddy Murphy, Hideo Itami, Akira Tozawa, and Kalisto.
Yeah, that's the Cruiserweight title matches tend to be the highlight of the kickoff show, pretty regularly. I mean, this was another great one. I tend to go to these big Rumble parties, so there's a lot of people. So even though I was watching, it was still kind of background noise show until it officially kicks off. So while I was observing it, I mean, these guys are some of the best athletes in the company, and Buddy Murphy in particular has really worked so hard to get to the point where he's at. Like, nobody a year ago today, if you said Buddy Murphy's going to be Cruiserweight champion for 4 to 6 months straight by the end of the year into the new year, nobody would have predicted it. That guy's just killing it. He got in incredible shape. He's having awesome competitive matches with a lot of these Cruiserweight guys. It's just kind of great to see Tozawa and Itami and Kalisto and Buddy Murphy all mixing it up and putting on a pretty good show.
I don't know about you, Greg, but I think over the course of this pay-per-view in its entirety, I've never seen a show have so many jumping knee strikes in my life.
There were a ton of them. I want to say Ronda did one, and there were a few. Matt Buddy Murphy does it regularly. There were a whole bunch of jumping knee
There's
strikes.
a couple in the Rumbles. It was just like, because there was like a few pay-per-views ago. There was like for some reason everyone started doing lariats. That was the thing, and they were all called lariats on the commentary. And it just felt like this was like the move of the month, in a way. But as you say, it was a really good four-way there, with some hard strikes.
Yeah.
John, thoughts on the match?
I totally agree. I mean, the Cruiserweights always just burn it down every time. Like, nothing nonsense for once. But I totally agree with Greg with how Buddy Murphy is like. When I was seeing him in NXT back in the day when he was still there, I just didn't see him as this this special character and whatnot. But now, since his turn to 205 and him taking the cruiserweight division and being its champion. I mean, he's only like second to Neville essentially. It's like if Neville was still around, he would still be the the kind of like big thing of the cruiserweights. But no, was it Buddy Murphy has definitely been able to step up and take replace the hole that was left. So yeah,
brilliant stuff. So definitely a big thing to go. Like if you watch any match off the kickoff show, then Cruiserweight Championship is definitely the one to watch.
Yeah.
There was
the two Japanese wrestlers, Tozawa and Hitami, have definitely come back from their stigma that they've been in for the last year or so, and this match has definitely proven it.
Yeah, there was some really lovely spots in that, including one where poor Itami got kicked by pretty much just everybody. And he was basically everybody countered a kick, and the counter of the kick ended up hitting him in the face.
Oh Jesus!
Which was funny, but it seemed like the only way to keep him down. But yeah, really good match that. Which brings us to the
main card. An interesting match to start off, and I actually made the point because I believe the three of us, myself, John, and Kev, were still chatting at that time. An interesting match to start off, and I actually said that Asuka versus Becky Lynch. If it starts, that means that something's going to be awry during the women's Royal Rumble. One thing I did notice, and I didn't really know that this was a baseball field until it was pointed out, but the lack of Titantron and the entrance ramp was very odd to me, and it made it look very... What was the WrestleMania that had the long run to the ring?
Which one?
There's a few of them now. Yeah.
There is a few of them now, but the one that's synonymous with the Ultimate Warrior that runs all the way down the ring. But that's what it reminded me of.
Well, it was a bit like Free as well, in that if you felt like they kind of needed the old pulley system. And
yeah.
A little bit.
Well, I mean, granted, it was kind of like reminding me of how minimalistic. Like some people have made the comparison of WrestleMania 2000 or WrestleMania 16, where that was very minimalistic and it didn't really have much of a big like stage or whatever.
It is interesting because it was missing the standard giant WrestleMania sign for people to point at. That was the fun.
It was the
like,
thing I was point at the video
enjoying.
Screen.
Yeah.
We'll put the logo up there quick.
Which they didn't even do this year. I don't think anybody pointed at it. But yes, first match on the main card. And my God, what a barnstormer it was. Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. What a match to start.
Yeah. Greg, what did you think of that one?
I mean, it's hard to... I mean, it's pretty hard to argue who the top women in the roster are, as there's so many right now. But Becky Lynch is probably the top person in the entire roster at the moment. And Asuka's unquestionably one of the most talented ladies they've got, aside from the Four Horsewomen and a couple other coming from NXT. So putting Asuka and Becky Lynch, seeing them go one-on-one, which they haven't done yet. They had that... I believe Asuka won the title in a triple threat that also included Charlotte. So this is the first time the two of them have gone one-on-one in any significant way. It's really tore it down, as you'd expect, and the crowd was obviously super hot. When you start with a match like that with Becky Lynch in it, you definitely are kind of teed off a little bit. Like, why are we starting with what could be the biggest match on the card?
Yeah,
it's probably leading to Becky showing up in the Rumble in some capacity.
Well,
that said, Becky submitting was a bit surprising at first. Kind of gets erased. Like by the time we get to the Rumble a little later, sure Becky tapped, but she made Asuka look like a star, and Becky is already like she's the top dog, so she's the man.
We've established that Becky's super tough, so the fact that she tapped and then makes Asuka look really good,
strong. Yeah.
It reminds everybody as well that it was. I mean, it was a heck of a submission as well. That got the.
It was it was a counter out of an Asuka lock into the reverse choke.
Mutilation was it?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was really interesting, and there were a couple of high spots like the Super Beck Exploder. Please don't ever use that name again. Why do we have to call Why do I have to use everything off the top rope as a super or an avalanche or a?
It's tradition. It's tradition.
It's only if they call it the stratosphere insert name here, then you can go, okay, now that's getting ridiculous.
It's basically Digimon evolutions, but for moves.
But yeah, John. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, when we always talk about openers and whatnot, they always have to start off the crowd, and sometimes we've always mentioned it. If it wasn't gonna be this match, if the tag division of New Day with either the Usos or the Bar or whatnot were starting this pay-per-view off, it would have been in the same caliber where it would be a high octane, high kind of like tier, kind of like barnstormer of an opening. It's good that this was that opening, with having these two women showcase how bloody good they are. And,
Absolutely.
And how Asuka should have been from after her loss of WrestleMania, because obviously since then she was kind of like in these very, very terrible kind of like storylines with Naomi, but now she has credibility again. She's back, and of course having this match with Becky solidifies it, and it obviously just means that Becky's obviously got to be moving on from this.
It was something they touched on in the commentary as well, about how Asuka had lost a bit of her aura and now she was gaining it back. So they're going somewhere with it. Whether or not they know what the end destination is remains to be seen. But
I think they don't. I think part of the reason this was on first is, I mean, we've touched on this before, and the writing is very obvious and on the wall, especially as we enter into the actual proper build up to WrestleMania now. And we're obviously building towards what's going to happen for the card. And regardless of what people have said for the changes of what that card's going to look like, there are two very obvious choices of who was going to be at the main event of WrestleMania. And one of them was obviously going to be Becky Lynch, and the other one was a later winner as well. And this bit match being on first clearly cemented it was either two things. Either the Women's Rumble was going to be on last, or somebody was going to be making an appearance in the Rumble who had lost this match. And because we kind of know the direction that this is going, but especially with the level of smarks that are currently sat in this this casting session, we kind of knew the direction it was going. So it's one of the big downfalls I have with this entire card is because we know where the direction of the storylines are going, the matches are very obvious to see who's winning them.
But that said, I think we were kind of still hoping, like, even though we knew it was coming, it was the thing we wanted to happen.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I know I did. We're all like, oh, Becky Lynch, well, I still hope she shows up later. So,
yeah, that's it.
And of course, it's also how they portray it is the question as well, because we could have obviously easily known what was going to happen, but if the matches stank up to lead to those predictable kind of like outcomes, we would have been shitting on it a lot more on that fact. It's only because they actually had a good chemistry and worked it out very well is that we're giving it more praise, even though it was more predictable. So
absolutely. And speaking of great chemistry, let us move on to the best tag team in the world versus the Bar, with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships on the line. Oh my goodness! By
the best tag team in the world, I can only assume you mean the Miz's dad and reactions to camera.
They were a solid tag team, wasn't it? What was it? Something else that you said as well? I can't remember if it was Twitter or if it was in Discord. That it's great that Miz and Mrs. Dad are showing the McMahons how a real father-son bond should be.
It wasn't me saying that, but yeah, I think that's why Shane probably is happy being a part of that, to say, this is what love looks like! This is what it looks like!
But I'll be honest, this was really fun to watch. Like, I mean, it's not a big pay-per-view where Shane O'Mac's there where he's not doing something insane.
Yeah.
And
He was active.
Yeah, no, he was very active. It's a lot better than what it has been recently. I like the tease with the big elbow drop to the table where he didn't do it. I loved the fact that he teased the double coast to coast and then got countered into the swing. And then just Sheamus just went on Magic Roundabout on him and just continued to go until, I don't know, one of them was probably aiming to take off to the moon.
Yes, Cesaro just kept going and going and going. Long past the point the crowd thought it was over, he just kept going.
Yeah. Well, you could also tell that when Cesaro dropped Shane that Cesaro just looked dizzy. He just stumbled around a bit. That was a nice little touch. And oh my god, the Shane McMahon shooting star press to finish. Holy hell, that was gorgeous to watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shane McMahon is 49 years old. And
he could do a better shooting star press than Brock Lesnar.
Well,
to be fair, Brock did used to be good at this.
Yeah, he used to do it, but he was given it.
Didn't want to do it anymore.
He didn't want to do it, but more importantly, at that Mania, they didn't take into consideration how damn tired he was.
Yeah.
So he didn't get the necessary rotation. That said, Shane McMahon is 49 years old and is doing shooting star presses. Hey, if you're gonna take out the bar,
do it with style.
Do it with style, and do it with something that is shown to be a big move. And nobody kicks out of the shooting star press in WWE land. So.
It is almost a protected move these days with how little they bring it out, I'd say, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, the other thing is the danger level, but it's Shane McMahon, so naturally it's fine.
Sorry, Greg, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, definitely a great finish to the match. Shane McMahon hitting his shooting star press. That should end a match, undeniably. And I kind of, feel bad for the tag team division in general. Because here you go, as of right now, the top guys are the Bar and the Usos and the New Day, and any other tag team, they've beaten all the others, and everyone kind of feels lesser than them. And so now we finally crown the Bar as the champs, and then who comes along and beats them? It's the Miz and Shane McMahon. The rest of the tag division even stand anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got plenty of guys on both shows. You got the Revival and the Authors of Pain. Breezango's, I think, one half of them's injured at the moment. But and then on SmackDown, there's the Usos and the Bar and the New Day. And if I didn't mention anyone else, because they haven't really been showing up or doing making any waves at the moment. So it's like here, Miz and Shane are the top tag team in the world, and who could even compete with them at this point?
I mean,
there's really not much of a division, even though there should be. The WWE again guys, but where does the tag division go?
I do think that's part of the problem, because again, this is all leading into a storyline at some point. I fully expect Miz and Shane to drop, to drop the belts at Elimination Chamber. I fully expect that. And
I would think it would be at least Fastlane.
I thought Fastlane was moved to after WrestleMania now.
No, it's before it.
Okay. That's gonna be
whatever it's called and whenever it is the one before they.
But yeah, it's going to lead into Miz and Shane at WrestleMania. We all see this coming. This has been building for like
the mega powers will explode. Everybody,
yeah, crown the greatest wrestler of all time. Yeah. One of those two. It's got to be them.
It's gonna be that trophy on a pole match.
Oh, fuck off. No.
Yes. Yes. I know it's true. You know it's happening.
Book it, Russo.
They're going to go Edge and Christian on that trophy, and that's what's going to happen.
I honestly hope that we actually get heel Shane rather than heel Miz, because face Miz is fucking fun to watch.
But heel Miz.
I don't know. Miz he's just a natural heel, though.
He is a natural heel.
I don't want to cheer for the Miz. He's that scumbag from the real world still to me. Like I don't know. I see him on TV and I just go like,
Greg, I've got an important question for you.
You guys are British. You don't know what the real world is.
We know what the real world is.
We know what it is. We had the real world. We had
the real world.
But I do have an important question for you, Greg. Do you support Miz as world champion again?
You know, I don't know that right now I would support that. Not with the roster they've gotten. There was a time maybe, 6 months ago when he was feuding with Bryan where that felt like the top kind of storyline. But not, right now, no. Miz feels like a solid mid carder at the moment, at least. I mean,
Okay.
eventually I could see it. The Miz he's got more charisma than a lot of guys, and he certainly can go. But I don't know. At the moment, I wouldn't want to put the world title on either of the world titles.
Yeah, it makes sense because you've got, as usual, WWE missed the boat. Miz did some really great stuff for 2 years and built himself back up again, and they they dropped the ball on it massively. So hence he's now stuck with nothing to do, and that nothing is known as Shane McMahon. And
who knows? This could be the heel turn for Miz again, where the actual plan was work with Shane and have a McMahon in your corner to book the matches how you want, and then he gets himself a world. It's like, Shane, we won the tag belts. Think about what we could do if we had enough. You could go for the US title. I could go for the World Championship. You could make that happen. 2-man power trip. Shane McMahon and the Miz.
God, I can see it because I can see him getting the big belt again down the line, just purely because the reactions of everyone, because everyone will initially be yay, because we kind of in our half hearts want to see Miz at the top because we want to hate the guy. And he will be the most obnoxious bastard in the world when he gets into that position again, and they know that he remains the go-to guy for the media stuff and everything. So they know they can trust him on that side. But yeah, they've got to go through the motions at the minute.
No, absolutely. I mean, it was something we were hoping through last year, and we planned it all out, and my plans have not come to fruition. Damn you,
yes,
WWE.
I'm sorry.
You've been done in. Pete.
I've been done in, but it would have been good. I can firmly say the tag match was very good. Yeah, I think we're all agreed on that.
Yeah,
it was better than it had a right to be.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else that was better than it had any right to be, and that was Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks. I thought we were going to get another squash, and this match really turned out to be something good. I really enjoyed it.
That had some spice to it as well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, you thought it that way, Pete, but no, I actually thought that because Ronda has been kind of like trying to evolve as this superstar in WWE and whatnot, and she's had these matches over the career and whatnot, she has, had to adapt. Essentially, her character had to adapt to all these challenges and stuff like that. And I thought that the storytelling that they had for this match between Ronda and Sasha worked out quite well, because they were going for their submissions, they were going for reversing each other and whatnot. Granted, there was a couple of like stumbles here and there and whatnot, but to what match doesn't? But some of the stuff that they were doing was really impressive. And Ronda, she's working it. She's getting through it, and being able to prove that she can hang with the big girls and all the established girls like Sasha, like all the 4 horsewomen essentially. So. Will obviously,
yeah, the 4 horsewomen.
Yeah, I think the story of Ronda Rousey has always kind of been like she keeps exceeding our expectations. She hasn't been wrestling very long. She's still kind of green, and she's definitely a little sloppy. We see there was like a weird crossbody at one point in that match, and there was some. She's not crisp and clean, but completely honest, like I don't need that all the time from wrestlers. It seems to be the WWE style where everybody has to be super clean and you have to hit every move so perfectly. But if this is, I know it's play fighting, but it's TV fighting. It's supposed to look, if it's supposed to look real, it's okay that everything's not so perfect and crisp. And so when she kind of flubs something a little bit, but still manages to land the move, I think that makes it even better. So, Ronda Rousey, I think, she's exceeded all expectations, and she's continually killing it, and they're putting her in there with the right people too.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there about how not everything has to be clean. I think it sort of ties in with that WWE philosophy that some people say is kind of part of the cause for the psychology aspect of wrestling being lost over time, and the believability factor. I mean, you can play into, you can play into the tiredness factor when people, miss moves and what have you, and you can put that as part of your match, but it's WWE, so everything has to be absolutely absolutely clean, which then people then say, well, that's why it's so clearly choreographed, and you lose a bit of the believability factor. But yeah, we continue, as I've been saying for the last goodness knows how long, the slow move towards the horsewoman off. Which is picking up speed.
Thing to see. I mean, I've fingers crossed for it. Shayna Baszler in NXT is killing it, and she's got the other two with her, Shafir and Jessamine Duke. So they're all. I mean, I don't know that those two are quite ready for a full-on feud, but an 8-woman tag would be real exciting. Still, though, I don't know if you guys read. I read recently that there's rumors that Ronda might leave after Mania.
Yeah, I was gonna get into this. So the rumor is that she's under a multi-year contract deal, but after Mania, she's going to be looking at taking an elongated break to start the family. What the word on the grapevine seems to be is that the role she'll take over will be almost similar to Brock Lesnar, but more in tune with Cena and The Rock, where she'll be doing like the sparring appearances.
More Cena than
so
Rock.
Yeah, so I imagine what will probably happen is we'll probably see some build to this, and we'll probably see some run-ins to the ring at Mania. Maybe that might get involved, because you know how they got to make Mania a super show and everything else like that. I imagine the Raw Women's title match at WrestleMania will be very similar to in terms of run-ins to the old Triple H and Sting match a couple of years ago.
Oh.
But then we'll see.
Must it?
I hope it doesn't, because that would absolutely ruin it. If especially if it's going to be
given the opportunity, they'll somehow make Sting lose that match as well.
I was gonna say, if they want to build up the four horsewomen kind of like mentality, I would think that we would do it for the summertime. So like.
No, what I imagine will happen, John, is if they don't make appearances at all, what we'll see them called up as a 3-person stable somewhere after WrestleMania, and they'll do the slow burn in the following year, probably after Survivor Series, or like where they'll probably have the horsewomen on one side and the others on the other side, and they'll win, and then they'll get Ronda will make an appearance as someone's getting jumped on, and then it will just do the slow burn to WrestleMania from there on the following year. Yeah, is what I kind of envision.
I was going to say the scary thing though with building a dream match that involves 8 competitors is, you don't know that they're all going to be healthy when you want to do it. Like if they're going to wait till Survivor Series next year, or even after that, or like next year's Mania or something, it's just such a risky thing to say, like, we got 8 competitors and that's the match that everyone wants to see. Nobody wants to see, oh no, Bayley got injured, let's throw Natalya in there or something, which I feel like would be their go-to. You just kind of hope that everybody can stay healthy enough for this match that they've been slowly building for a long time now to actually happen.
It also builds to the point that if that's what they're aiming to do on a following year, it means that none of those 8 women will be in any position to have the women's championship, because to not have the women's championship defended at WrestleMania, either one of them, would be a massive mistake, especially at this point.
I mean, it depends. I mean, there are matches that go past the mere presence of having the belt, and I think that would be one of them. But it's interesting that they're starting to go through the gears now on this, and a lot of it's being done on social media. We've now had it that we've got the ongoing story with obviously Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. We've had Ronda Rousey versus Sasha here. Bayley challenged Ronda Rousey on Raw, and so they've had their match. And it's been interesting because there's been a lot of back and forth on social media before the Royal Rumble match between Sasha and Ronda, and it's got a bit bitchy. And Bayley's sort of been in the background, sort of, sticking with and what have you. And there's lots of talk about the Four Horsewomen name. Ronda said that it's all about a marketing gimmick to them, whereas opposed to the MMA guys believe it.
I can guarantee that part of this Twitter feud / promotional video going into Mania a lot of it will be you talk about the Four Horsewomen and Ronda will go, I've beaten 3 of them. She's technically beaten Charlotte, she's beaten Sasha, and she's now beaten Bayley.
Yeah, so you've got that, but you've also got the bit that they showed respect after the match, the 2 of them, and Ronda pretty much immediately turned round and shat on Sasha in an interview. You've got Bayley after the match with Bayley showing respect to Ronda. I'm willing to bet there's going to be something said at some point. You've still got Charlotte in the mix, and the rumor is that they won't leave this Mania match well alone, and they'll want to put Charlotte in it and make it a triple threat.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was another plan that they wanted Charlotte versus, and Charlotte got,
which pretty much would guarantee it. I think if they do, it's pretty much a guarantee that they want this to be the main event of Mania. Actually,
I think it's been pretty much said that.
Yeah.
Sorry, names are losing me. Becky Lynch was going to be the main event. Lynch versus Rousey was going to be the main event.
But if they put Charlotte in it, it's guaranteed because they want Charlotte to be the one who's in all the history making moments. So that's what they really desperately want.
What were you going to say, Greg?
Yeah.
I was agreeing. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be the main event regardless. But you know what? They throw the word main event around a lot, especially regarding Mania. And when they say, "Oh, it's going to be the main event," there's usually 5 or 6 main events.
That's it with Mania now, isn't it? It's like
so who knows what's going to go on last?
The Undertaker will probably have a match somewhere in there.
He's going to challenge Becky Lynch at the end.
That's it. I mean, but before we move on, I do want to say that Wikipedia is my normal go-to for the match lists and everything else, and it's not updated on Wikipedia. So I had another site up which has the matches in order, and the last line of this, the thing I have about the Raw Women's title is, but Rousey channeled her inner Hulk Hogan and John Cena by powering out by reversing and standing up before hitting a Piper's Pit Slam with a bridge, and I was just like, right.
How am I putting it?
That entire end of that match was pretty much Sasha doing everything in her power, every submission, every move in her arsenal, and ones that she's never even done before on WWE television to put her down.
Yeah,
and
she even had a wardrobe malfunction and using her own, clothes
that was a deliberate one. That was deliberate. Yeah, she took it off to alleviate the pressure, and then
wardrobe malfunction. But I mean, like permanent, like purposely doing it and using it as part of the submissions.
Ronda Rousey got beat down in that last section like she's never been beaten down before, and then did a Cena. Whoop. Yeah. Also, it's nice to know that twisting Death Valley Drive, whatever it is she does now, actually has a move called as a name.
Yeah, the Piper's Pit.
Because we discussed it before on the previous cast that we thought it was actually a really nice move, and that it's called Piper's Pit is obviously another homage. So that's good.
Moving swiftly on, the Women's Royal Rumble. Thoughts? Right. Anyone want to take the lead on this?
I'll do that. Some of the notable kind of like stuff that I thought was, I mean, granted, I could definitely applaud it for not being so legend heavy this time around, because last year, obviously with the inaugural one, you had to have all these legends to bulk out the number and whatnot. This time around, they had enough women on both the main roster, and then you had a good showing of the free agents, as they're calling them, that they had in there with Lacey Evans and Nikki Cross. Then you had decent NXT representation with Io Shirai and Kairi Sane getting in there, and even a couple of newbies there, like what's her name from the Ninja Warrior,
Azia Lee.
Casey Catanzaro.
Yeah, Casey Catanzaro.
Yeah. She obviously is gonna have some real highlights in future women's Royal Rumbles down the line, based on what she performed at this year's
That was
one.
nuts what she was doing.
Yeah, what she obviously her getting eliminated, she was able to keep her feet off of from the bottom by just sitting, whatever. Was able to get up, back. I think she kind of like reversed backwards up to the guardrail, and then did a handstand to the ring post, and then wrap her legs around the ring post, and everyone was like, "Oh
then pull
yeah!"
herself up, and it's like, what's going on with that?
Yeah. But no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to your point, like, yeah, it really shows the difference between last year's Rumble and this year's Rumble, where it was so legend heavy, and this year they didn't need them. It really shows the depth that they've kind of created in their roster, where they have enough ladies to fill out these slots, and for it not to feel kind of bare and lacking. Like, there's all the women on the main roster, and then they pulled, I want to say, 5 or 6 women from NXT and NXT UK, and the free agents who just came to the main roster. So it was just like, it just really felt like they didn't, like, there's a big difference. You can look at last year's Rumble and this year's Rumble, and you see they've created.
Yeah,
And
this
that's
year's Rumble was definitely much better than last year's. So it was definitely, very good. And there was a couple of botched moments here and there. Also, we forgot to mention the AR's back for this program. And by God,
Of course it is.
I tweeted this out on my Twitter. Basically, when I saw Ember Moon's entrance and that big, massive CGI moon in the ground, I immediately thought Majora's Mask is happening right now. Give that moon a face. We're all going to die.
It's I try not to talk about the immersive reality stuff anymore for obvious reasons, if you know who I am. But yeah, it's they're plowing ahead with that, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
the mixed reality stuff.
Sometimes it works, and sometimes it works too well.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive. That moon.
But no, overall for the match itself, I enjoyed it. It was a really good Royal Rumble, especially one of the highlights, which I will leave it to someone else to talk about.
I mean, I really enjoyed this as a Rumble itself, because it felt more like the women's Royal Rumble felt more like a Rumble from, say, the 2000s era, where we knew that there would be big names. Like, the women's division has got a lot of those big names on the main roster who lasted a while. I mean, you only have to look at so Natalya 56 minutes, Ember Moon 52 minutes, Charlotte Flair 50 minutes. There's only a few people in the Rumble who had some of those in and out in 5 minutes. A few more if you look to the under 10-minute mark. But when you have three people that last about 50 minutes, and they're all those big names who are big stars in that sort of division, it really reminds you of, say, you had The Rock in at number 6. He's going to be in there for a 40-minute mark. Jericho at 2. He's going to be in there for 40 minutes plus. It felt like that sort of level of Rumble where you had your big names and everything else, and they're going to stay there for a while.
Which is oddly something that I thought was missing from the men's Rumble, and I think we'll get to that. Which is what I was
going to talk about later, yes.
Yeah, so some interesting things going forward. It made sense that Natty was out at number 2, because you want somebody there who's going to be going forward through the whole thing. I thought it very interesting that she started off with Lacey Evans, by the way.
I think it's
we
because
know
they
that she's big.
I think they wanted to give Lacey some more mic time.
Yeah.
Because unless you watch NXT, we saw her on the main roster on the Bliss talk show, and that's really been about it. So really giving her that opportunity to get herself over, and even then, she lasted nearly 30 minutes.
Exactly, but the fact is that they're very hot. They're very high on Lacey, or they have been in NXT. So it's interesting that, the first 2, Natty you kind of expect, because she's basically worked with everybody in all of them anyway, regardless.
Obviously.
She's the one who's helped train half of them, and as I've mentioned before in here, she's essentially the gatekeeper for everybody coming in. And Greg is absolutely right, by the way. If one of either side of that horsewomen battle got injured, they would probably go to Natty, because storyline, it would make sense either way, from the history of each of the teams. So That was interesting. As you mentioned, the long periods of time for those competitors. Ember Moon's obviously injured now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yep, she's off to get she's immediate surgery on her elbow, she took a nasty tumble when Alexa Bliss eliminated her, but I think with an assist from Nia Jax.
Oh, what? Nia Jax injuring people? No. That would never happen.
I can't remember. I think she was involved. Well, she wasn't exactly delicate in eliminating somebody in a different Rumble later on.
Yep.
I was astounded he wasn't injured.
Yep.
But there was lots going on there. Charlotte got to be a tough sort of boss character in the middle, and everyone kept trying to face off with her. The Kairi Sane and Charlotte having a chop off,
Yes.
and both of them being like, "Yeah, come on, I'll take each other's," and then so that was fun.
Also, Kairi saying, "Don't run to the ring," well, with a spyglass and say, "You're gonna poke your eye out."
Yeah, I was like, please don't do that. Please stop.
This is probably going to sound really, really bad. But did anybody feel like there was too much long blonde hair in the Rumble at one point?
Definitely at the beginning of the Rumble, right? The first four, four
so
women.
Lacey, Mandy, and Liv in the first four.
Lacey versus Charlotte Flair. If you actually look at the pair of them when they have a face-off, it's basically Charlotte Flair versus Charlotte Flair slightly shorter. It was a really bizarre thing with them. Also, Charlotte, whenever a match goes long for Charlotte, she looks more and more demented.
I think that's what they're going for, though.
I don't know what that is with her, but she looks like she's just lost it.
It's really.
Match.
I know we've talked about this before, but it's really annoying. We've asked for heel Charlotte again for so long because she plays it really well. Well, she is essentially heel at this point, isn't she? I mean, she may as well be, but it's just the fact that it's come at that inopportune time against Ronda Rousey, because it was obviously going to be the fucking Becky match, and now it's just like we got Becky Lynch, who's moved to slight tweener. I don't know. I don't really know where she's at. And Charlotte's just gone.
She's being WWE is insisting that she's a heel, and everyone else is insisting that she's a face. So on that basis,
I say she's more like Stone Cold, whether they want to admit it or not.
I'd say that's actually a very good point.
She's got the attitude, and the crowd loves it. So
absolutely. Another thing I want to bring up before we move on. It was nice to see Alicia Fox actually be able to take part in this Royal Rumble, because she wasn't able to do it on the initial one because I think of an argument with Ronda Rousey's husband or something, and she was not punished at all. But she was punished, and she was.
I would also like to say, rest in peace, Alicia Fox's hat that never once at all in any way got damaged.
Yes, it refused. It no sold. It no sold.
It got a slight chip here and there, but other than that, perfectly immaculate.
I'm sorry. I love.
Put it up on eBay.
I love Alicia Fox's dedication to this character. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. The crowd, unfortunately, was during the Alicia Fox Maria was kind of the deadest of the night. I want to say, but even still, Alicia Fox, like she goes 100%, and you got to give her credit for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
for 45 years.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention. It's like this was a very unique Rumble as well, because for the first time, normally we have women entering the men's Rumble, but this time around we had a man come into the women's Rumble with Vega of all people. Yes, Street Fighter 2's Vega being able to show up in the.
That was
sorry, that's Selena Vega. Sorry, I completely.
Yeah, it was. Xavier Wood was having a moment somewhere. I
saw Xavier's tweets. They were pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
but
cool.
it was a sweet little thing. I must admit, I was really confused initially when she came out. Like, who's this? This is not who I was expecting. Oh, I get it now. Oh, okay. Oh dear. But yeah,
that's probably not the notable entrant.
Yes,
of the night.
because we had a nice payoff to what was being talked about earlier.
Actually, before you go that way, we did have a man in this Women's Royal Rumble, John. Did you forget about the man, the myth, the legend, Hornswoggle?
Oh.
of all the returns.
Who chased Vega up the ramp.
Of all the returns, I was not expecting that.
I don't know. They were really kind of telegraphing something because Zelina Vega kept sticking her face out from under the ring, and you're like, most of the time they just kind of hide and wait until something happens, and then they just kept cutting to her, only going somewhere.
I thought they.
Yeah.
So I thought they were just going to have it that somebody was just going to come down and just not go in the ring because they keep showing it on the screen. Have somebody actually have that knowledge that there's somebody under there and actually go around and just drag her out and throw her in.
Unfortunately, I mean, this just like unfortunately, I hate to say unfortunately because it's really cool how they do it, but the hiding under the ring thing got really overplayed this year, as well as the Kofi Kingston yearly spot. Seems to now be getting overplayed with, as John said earlier, Casey Catanzaro. I mean, I do apologize.
Right. Also, I believe Naomi did something.
Naomi did it as well.
They did an old Kofi one actually. I think.
Yeah, she walked along the ring barrier and jumped onto the steps.
Yeah, but at least she got taken out afterwards by Mandy.
Yes,
Rose.
that was a nice twist on it. That Mandy Rose got a little bit of revenge, and they continued that story with. I
can't hold anything against it. They're very athletic and they can definitely do things. I can't do that, so I can't hold that against them. But it's just the fact that
have you tried?
You'd be surprised. I can barely roll out of bed these days.
Push that man.
The thing about this is going to sound really bad. When we have one Rumble and we see that spot, we're like, oh, is Kofi going to do it? But now we've got, is Kofi going to do it? Is Naomi going to do it? Is Casey, if she makes another appearance, is she going to do it? You know, it's the spots that we used to see from one person every year, which has now become twice a year because we've got the Greatest Royal Rumble as well, if that comes back again. And
that sound. That sound, Greg, encapsulates it all. But it becomes, it becomes less. It's one of those big, like any spot, like Shane McMahon's shooting star press at the Rumble. It becomes one of those things that it's like, is it overplayed now because multiple people do it? Still impressive, not taking it away from the athletic people who can do this stuff. It just kind of takes it away when we see other people do it. And I mean, here we go. I mean, even the same post that was looking at. Meanwhile, Naomi and NXT superstar Casey Catanzaro, a former American Ninja Warrior champion, completed essentially the same Kofi Kingston save by walking on their hands outside to avoid elimination. You know, they even reference it, and that's where it loses some of its magic, which is unfortunate. Great to see it. Fantastic. And it leads me on to the same thing that Vega did with hiding under the ring. It's okay, it's cool. Not anybody else has seen it. It's different from just not entering the ring straight away. But then we see that later on. Is on the same evening as somebody else doing it. And it just loses that little bit of a spark. Right. So I just double checked regarding Saudi Arabia because I was pretty certain this was the case, but wanted to be sure. What's being reported is that we're going to Saudi Arabia twice in 2019, in May and November, which would presumably we'll get May being the Greatest Royal Rumble and
Crown Jewel
being Crown Jewel because that went so well.
Well, let's hope there's not something super. What's the word?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's already been done, though. I think, what more needs to be done to make this already something to shake your head at?
Yeah. They're already in the hole.
Anyway, I've had my little rant on that. It was a good Rumble. I just feel like it just takes some of the special stuff away.
But you were saying about a man entering the Women's Royal Rumble. I think you mean the man entered the Women's Royal Rumble.
She did. Lana came out at number 21, still selling the same injury
28.
that happened during the. What did I say? Sorry.
You said 21.
Numbers.
20.
What are they-
No.
I say numbers. What are they good for? I'll be the first person to complain if my paycheck's wrong by £7. She came out at 28, selling the same injury that she received during the Rusev's title loss, which I hope wasn't done just for the sheer point of this. Couldn't get in. Rousey came out, I believe, after number 30, while Lana was still in the entrance ramp.
Lynch, you mean?
Lynch.
Oh my god, I'm bad with words and names and numbers.
Wait, did Ronda Rousey win the Women's Royal Rumble and challenge herself?
No, she challenged Asuka.
I was gonna say she was doing a Hulk Hogan.
She was doing it all. She was doing it all. She's on
Just,
commentary
it's like
too.
Champion wins the Rumble.
Absolutely. But Rousey came in at the end of it all, and we had some really good Rousey-Charlotte moments, as to be expected. Charlotte looking disheveled as it gets
Why do
further
you
and
keep
further.
saying Rousey?
Because I'm special, all right. That's all it is. I'm a special boy. Lynch came in. There were some fun moments between Lynch and Charlotte, and Lynch wins. Lynch goes on to WrestleMania, as everybody was expecting. And then the next night of Raw, she has officially challenged Rousey. There you go.
She has picked up an injury, though, it looks like, Becky Lynch.
Was it from Nia Jax?
Yeah. Yeah, as it happens, yeah. But she was still selling it at Raw last night at the time of recording. And she sort of limped down the ring to face Ronda Rousey. Sometimes known as Becky Lynch. And so there's that. Hopefully it's just a bang, or she was just selling storyline. But
I would have thought it would be a sell for the story, because they really played it up in that last bit of the Rumble, where she was holding her leg and she was like, "No, I want to get back into the ring and want to keep fighting," and whatnot. So I think
you'd hope, because we don't need anything else trying to derail this damn thing.
Yeah.
But,
It'd almost be nice if they all had like lighter schedules, you know. Considering the vastness of their roster, maybe some people can get a week off every once in a while.
That sounds like union talk, Greg the Body Hahn over there.
And it's really. I'll touch about this towards the end of it, because I think it's all a nice discussion point to actually end the show on. I think we're happy with the Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble, very good showing.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. My wife won the pot. We draw numbers and throw some money in, and so my wife turned 28, so that worked out for her. I had Maria and one half of the Iconics, so that ended very
you did well then. You did well.
Was it me, or were the Iconics really crap?
Yes, they were.
In that,
the crap overall, really.
I like the Iconics. I think if they just shut up, they could do so much better. You know, they could be a presence. They'll probably be a big thing when the women's tag team championships become a thing. You know,
they're winning it. They're winning it.
I'll tell you what. I will fully expect post WrestleMania that we'll have a specific women's slot on the WWE network, much akin to 205 Live, just so the women of WWE actually have their own show and probably build stuff up. It would be very good.
There must be a day of the week they've not got a show going at the minute.
Well, this is again something else I was going to talk about later, but they now have five live wrestling shows: Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. So there's at least 2 days in the week, because I'm not counting. I'm not counting the main event and everything else. But
they have what was it? Superstars and main. Superstars and main event. But like the main shows, they pretty much have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as their whole block. Just put another show on Thursday, and there you go. You got like 4 days in a week. Why not? Yeah, just overblow it, guys.
Look, we all know Vince wants more stuff on the network. If they've managed to turn 205 Live around and they actually have a decent productive value on it, production value on it, and a good story writing team that doesn't just turn around and go, she was my friend, she betrayed me. As long as we don't have storylines like that, then
that's half of all wrestling stories ever.
But yeah, I mean, I'm quite sure we'll see a women's show that's similar to 205 Live that might be on the network. It would not surprise me if that's down the line, especially with women's have it's got to be coming surely. But yeah, let's move on.
On to the men's side of the Rumbles.
No,
it's like the whole, because that's essentially what this whole thing was. And it's like the first half was all the women.
So the bar, the Miz, and
Shane
McMahon
sorry,
are
I
women.
totally forgot. I totally forgot about that match.
Well, if you don't see gender,
besides that,
if you don't see gender, John, that's down to you. All right, but
that's an internet rabbit hole we shouldn't go down.
No, it's absolutely not. WWE Championship: Daniel Bryan defending against AJ Styles. Again, brilliant bloody match. Again. I mean, this improved on what we saw last time, where it was a methodical match following that before a methodical match, but we have just the one methodical match this time. It was good, and after the Rumble, it was a little bit slower. After all the Rumble's high action, and then surprise return.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed this match. The ending felt a little bit weak with the surprise return, but it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles are among the greatest wrestlers alive, and I've been watching those guys since 2005 in Ring of Honor and stuff. So they've been delivering high quality matches for a long time. I think personally, this wasn't my favorite outing of theirs. I think the Eric Rowan thing had a lot to do with that. It was kind of a head scratcher. You go, why is Eric Rowan walking out at all right now? Just Rowan.
I think it has to do, and this is just a personal thing, less thinking about the Wyatt stuff, but I think the only way they could have continued this rivalry was for the match to not end clean.
Sure.
Yeah. You had that factor in, and as you mentioned, Pete, you've also got the fact that it was ideally placed on the card because you had the crowd tired after the Women's Royal Rumble, so it was a slow, methodical thing that built them up, built them back up again. So, whether or not this will play into the additional imminent returns of Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt remains to be seen. It'd be interesting if the Wyatt family reforms, but the head of the Wyatt family is Daniel Bryan, because that would tie into what they'd done previously with the two. But
I'm not really leaning that way, in that Rowan coming out dressed in a flannel just makes me feel like he's going like the Daniel Bryan vegan gimmick or something. Like he's leaning more into Daniel Bryan's character than the former Wyatt character.
It does smell like it's probably going to be more of a straight edge society rather than another Wyatt family thing.
That's what I was thinking this was leading towards.
I mean, if they get the rest of the Wyatts and we actually have the Wyatts plus Bryan in the proper heel thing, that would be interesting to see, rather than just a heel turn just for Bryan to get his own back in a cage. That would be interesting to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's got promise. We just have to see where it comes out. If there is Chamber's going to be a big one.
I think it's safe to give Daniel Bryan the benefit of the doubt, because whatever character he's doing, the cream rises to the top. He's been killing it with this new heel angle. This better than you vegan recycler. It's the idea that he's saying all these things that we should be supporting and we're booing him for it.
Yeah.
It's really what a great heel he is.
I think it was Jim Sterling that actually said it for this week's SmackDown. It was just like, why are we all booing Daniel Bryan for being a heel when he's actually saying the correct thing?
Yeah,
Well,
because it's the whole concept of, you know, it's his character turned up to 11, or like it's him turned up to 11, overblowing it and whatnot, and trying to make you feel bad and whatnot is his way of trying to do it. And
I'll tell you the exact point that Bryan's changing characters sold on me was when he did the interview on SmackDown where he had the ring on his own. The first one I think he had since he got the belt. And the biggest thing that it sold on me, and I mentioned it on the LMC Discord at the time, is that I noticed during the interview that he didn't have the yes plates on. And he threw him down. And that's the point that his new persona really sold on me, and I enjoy what he's saying.
Yeah. Of course, Bryan's greatest achievement throughout this entire pay-per-view was making the special Royal Rumble burger that you could get at the event, which was some horrendous monstrosity of food. But he managed to make that completely sell out, apparently, because he raged on it so much. If you get a chance, look it up on Twitter. It was just like, how on earth you could eat that, God alone knows. But hey, you've got the vegan guy making you all go out and buy burgers just to spite him. So that's an interesting idea. That, and it also shows that heels can be really effective marketers if they're played right.
Well, that's how Miz has always been.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's why he's always doing Marine movies.
You're doing stuff to spite them. He doesn't want you to buy his merchandise. Well, I'll show him. Yeah. Gets wallets.
I don't know. I really enjoyed the match, especially what was it? The moonsault off the barrier into a reverse DDT.
Yes,
that was a gorgeous spot.
Yeah. Always love it when
AJ's always good at that.
And you got Bryan as well, who he can do it smoothly with.
Absolutely.
So, I did cringe a little bit because it's a whack to the noggin on the outside for Bryan.
Yes.
But then again, as we've said previously on these, we're kind of programmed for any hit on Bryan's head to us all just go, oh my god, no.
I think what I would have liked to see more in this match is the same sort of cerebral mind games from Bryan that we saw versus Lesnar. I
saw in this match at the start.
Really had it dialed up versus Lesnar, and that's what I really enjoyed about the Lesnar Bryan matchup, was like how he just played games with Lesnar.
I think we'll get that going forward from now a bit more.
Yeah.
But hey, it's interesting to see. Could be interesting to see where they go with this with Rowan and being thrown into the mix.
Yeah, I mean we'll probably see a lot more of that on SmackDown this week, but it might just be a lot more of Bryan shouting down the camera and saying he agrees with me. So we'll see how that sells out.
That could be his entire program, his entire promo. So, just yelling he agrees and then walking off.
Again, I think we saw Bryan retaining. I think again it was another. We saw this one coming. We saw this one coming with Brock Lesnar again not dropping the belt until WrestleMania. I did say at the beginning of the night that I would have liked to see Balor win, if just for the fact that, you know, we'll see Lesnar in a fucking elimination chamber properly rather than whatever the hell else. But
I think Greg and myself would totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Go on, Greg. No, you go.
They kind of telegraph it when Finn Balor comes out for a big match and he's not dressed like the Demon. I kind of know right away that his chances are real slim. If he was fighting Brock in Demon gear, you can get a little bit of hope. I know he's not really. This feud didn't quite call for the Demon to come out yet, but it's just really you just assume like Balor doesn't really stand a chance unless he's dressed like the Demon. And that's just kind of that's a sad state of affairs, but that's kind of how their booking has gone. This is a match that that should have happened a long time ago. Finn Balor lost the Universal title. He had to give it up. What was it, 2 years ago now? It's kind of a match I was hoping to see a long time ago when he returned, and they just kind of kept pushing it off.
Yeah, the first time he had it was when Reigns won it off Lesnar, and Reigns went, "You get the first chance," and they gave it away on Raw, and even then they kind of semi-ruined it with Strowman with Money in the Bank. But yeah, I think Balor's going to have a better chance. I think you can't even say they want him to look strong because they've just done jack all with him since he's been back, really. But again, I'm just tired of the big versus the little guy story. It's so tired and it's so played out.
But here's the thing: it's like at least Balor, at least Brock knows how to bump for the little guy, because we've seen that with AJ Styles, we've seen that with Daniel Bryan, and we saw it again with Finn Balor here.
Yeah.
Where he did work well with Balor, and Balor was putting on, the great offense. Things like I think one percentage number that was going around is that Balor had about like 70% of the offense in here, and it wasn't just like Suplex City constantly in this match. It was very, very minimalistic.
I have one problem with this match.
Was it the kayfabe digging the ribs?
No. I actually thought that was quite a good way of giving Brock a potentially legitimate injury. I mean, dangerous.
Oh no, absolutely.
Dangerous as hell, but you could kind of understand that it would be an opening. My problem is that when we have a Brock Lesnar match, it's high paced and exhilarating, but there are one of two Brock Lesnar matches we have. One is the sort of the long drawn out one, and one is the guy jumps him at the beginning and it's all really, really fast and Brock's on the ropes and everything, and it's exactly the same. And at what point is everyone going to realise that? Because it's great and it gets the big reaction, whatever, but it is essentially the same match. It's like, is it going to be a long match or is it going to be a high-paced short match? And if it's the high-paced short match, he's probably going to get jumped at the beginning. He's then going to fight his way back. He's then going to have something that he's going to be hurt, or he's going to hit his elbow off the ring post, or he's going to quote unquote tweak his knee and be hobbling around, or he's going to go into a table now, and then it's going to be right on him, and then right at the end it's going to be one move or two moves, and then he wins.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Actually, I told you, just made me remember about going backwards, whatnot, in the Ronda Rousey Becky Lynch match where Ronda hit her arm on the LED post and then it flickers and whatnot.
Yeah. The state like 3, like 1, 2, 3, flicker.
Yeah, and then it's magically okay after that.
It was wonderful how on this LED screen we've got this television static. Television static from the 80s, which we don't even get anymore. This stuff.
So, sorry to backtrack to there, but let's go back into this now. And,
quick, turn the switch, turn it off.
Anyway, Pete, you were saying
that was hokey.
No, I was gonna kind of agree with Greg. But then I was gonna just about the demon that was. But then I was just like, yeah, I mean, clearly he's saving it for WrestleMania because he only pulls it out versus special moments. And then I remember when he just randomly was the demon versus Baron Corbin at a throwaway match, like not too long ago.
Yeah,
and I was just like, what would he pull out the demon for? Clearly,
to
he's
make
not
us
in the
care about Baron Corbin, and it still didn't work.
I mean, I assume we're going to have some sort of intercontinental ladder match at Mania. That's the way that's probably looking at going. He's not going to be the demon for that. So, I mean, we're probably not going to see the demon until SummerSlam, I imagine.
Probably.
If that. But I don't know. I'm still rooting for eventually Rollins versus Balor. I think that's going to be a stellar match to watch. Yeah, who knows? Hopefully we'll see some cool stuff post WrestleMania with Balor. But at the moment, We'll probably see Balor in Elimination Chamber. I don't know why. I don't know what the Elimination Chamber is going to serve for the Raw Heavyweight Championship. Lesnar's not going to fight in that, and if he is, he'll be the last person in, and he'll just decimate and win. So,
Very likely.
it's disappointing because the problem, and I don't really want to shit on it because nearly everybody else out there in the world does. The problem with Lesnar having the championship means that we know it's not going to drop until a specific moment. We've talked on the show many times about how WWE writing is predictable, and Brock Lesnar is the epitome of that. And it's disappointing. And I like the guy, but maybe it is time to actually just leave and move on. It's a good paycheck, I get it. But maybe it's the time that WWE makes the call that we don't want to see Brock.
Yeah, it would totally save them a lot of money.
What was interesting was this came up on my Twitter feed. You may be aware that they've recently done get another one of their 24/7 programs, which covered Mania, and there's a clip. Last year's Mania, and there's a clip of Brock coming back, through Gorilla after the match, being pissed off and throwing the belt at Vince McMahon.
Oh yeah, because we heard about this, didn't we? But we never saw it.
We never saw it, but Vince is busy doing all this stuff on that Gorilla, and Brock just straight up throws that very heavy belt at McMahon. It's still it's still not wonderful between the all parties there. So. But they're just going for it for the star value and the draw that Brock.
He's still a big draw. That's what I don't get. Everybody hates it when Brock has the belt. They do. They loathe it because they know he's not going to be on the television week in, week out, because it's the deal that Brock signed and the deal that Brock wants. And yet, every time he's on the card, he's such a massive draw. I think that's more for Heyman talking more than anything else because they know that Heyman will be there. But he's such a big draw, and I don't get it because people hate him with that title.
Well,
anyway, on to what I think was the most disappointing match of the evening. More for the fact that this became a 5-hour pay-per-view, and God, I was not ready for.
The pre-show was 2 hours.
Well, I didn't watch the pre-show.
Yeah,
thankfully.
lucky you.
It's boggling because even if you watched it live on the network, which I was at the time, by the time it was meant to finish, the 24/7 show was meant to have started on when the last Rumble was like to start, and I was like, are we really a 5-hour show? But yeah, who wants to start talking about the men's Royal Rumble? John, you've been nominated. Talk about the men's Royal Rumble.
All right, fine. I kind of thought it was okay. I mean, granted, I hated the start because I had my least favorite character at the moment, which was
Jeff Jarrett.
2 of my least favorite characters. Elias and Jeff Jarrett starting things off. This bit, and it's like, I hated Elias already, and we had to have JEFFJATTE. Whatever.
I like the fact that you can't even spell it the amount of times you told us.
You've got to get as many in as possible.
It's interesting. It was nice to see Jeff Jarrett for the sheer sake of what they did with it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's a cool moment.
Well, Pete, all I've got to say is you've still got to watch Raw.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah. But,
you didn't know?
But at least I'll commend it that Jeff Jarrett was the only legend in this match.
Excuse me,
Kurt.
Oh, well, okay.
Excuse me.
Not active. Yeah.
Yeah, someone that hasn't been active in the last 5 years.
I think you're clearly forgetting about the 3 biggest legends that were in this Rumble: Pete Dunne, Aleister Black, and Kurt Hawkins.
Way, Jose.
Mate, Kurt Hawkins has had recognition from The Rock. That boy's going places.
He got an elimination. Hawkins got
Yay.
elimination.
Good for him.
And then he got murdered by Samoa Joe.
Like, but I think this is a good point to talk about it. There's not a lot, like we talked about in the Women's Rumble. There were a lot of long-lasting people. It was brilliant. It was good to see. There wasn't many people that were under like 5 minutes or so. In this, you just look at the card and it just feels like there were so many throwaway people. Like, I'll just go through the list of people. I mean, you had Jeff Jarrett at the beginning. We won't count that. But Kurt Angle, 3 minutes 15. Jinder Mahal, 30 seconds. A world champion. 2 world champions in under 5 minutes. Like, regardless of what you think about Jinder Mahal, he's still a world champion. You know? Kurt Hawkins, 4 minutes. That he had a bit of fun in there, though. Titus O'Neil, 5 seconds. Okay. No Way Jose, in and out. Xavier Woods, 3 seconds. Xavier Woods.
Too, right? Yeah.
I mean,
I blinked.
Yeah.
I blinked and I didn't. I blinked and then Xavier Woods was on the floor, and I honestly was wondering what the heck was going on.
Can someone explain to me the Bobby Lashley thing? Was that an accident?
I have no idea. You'd think that I mean, it feels like they're pushing the guy all the time on Raw, and then you throw him in the Rumble, he gets in and out in 13 seconds, and you go, well, are we taking this guy seriously or not? Like, what message are you trying to send?
When he fell out, he looked at his hand, so I presume he slipped. But I'm honestly not sure what happened to Lashley. They've given him the title belt. I just don't get it. I honestly don't.
Yeah.
Again, he's a bona fide world champion, and all of these people that are under there is just who had the longest time on there. Just looking at it, oh yeah, the guy who won the Royal Rumble at 43 minutes. The next person who's close to that is having a quick scan of this, Samoa Joe at 23 minutes.
Mustafa Ali had 30 minutes.
Did he?
Mustafa Ali had 30 minutes until
So he did.
Nia Jax tried to kill him.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was.
Let's talk about some of the good stuff. They had the NXT guys, right? Bringing in Aleister Black,
Johnny Gargano.
Johnny wrestling.
Johnny.
That's exciting. Just to see him in a WWE main roster ring. It's pretty exciting.
I've been
right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I was excited for Gargano because I've only watched the one. I'm really bad. I'm clearly the worst smark in the room because I literally only watch WWE and nothing else. But
John, prepare him a playlist of all the.
No, don't do that. I have zero time. I watched the match of Gargano. The first match of Gargano versus Ciampa. What was it?
The unsanctioned match.
The unsanctioned match. And that's the first time I've seen Gargano and Ciampa. So I've been really hyped to see them properly. The first time I saw Aleister Black was when he did that match on SmackDown years ago. And then I've caught the odd thing from Black and I'm really hyped to see him. Pete Dunne, I'm well aware of him. Watching Pete Dunne on Drew McIntyre. Jesus, that was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Pete Dunne is probably my favorite wrestler right now. His match, he always delivers. He's so cool. I just love the British style of wrestling. I love the finger breaking stuff that he does and just like tying people up in knots. Like I saw him one time in live at PWG, 10-man tag where everyone stuck their thumbs up each other's butts. It was
I think I've seen a clip of that.
The ideal Pete Dunne match, but just a fantastic wrestler. I love that guy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got to see him live because Shakara did King of Trios, but they
cool.
But like not last year, but like the year before, and they brought it over to the UK and they shot it in Wolverhampton, and it was great because it was him and Moustache Mountain as the trio. And that was great, but it was weird because they had a weird thing, because he couldn't come out with the belt.
Yeah, because it was the weird contract they were on.
There was a weird thing because he wasn't, even though he was there to promote, as the UK champion, he couldn't, he wasn't allowed to show the belt. But I mean, that was a super hard hitting, and again, you had the joint. He was doing the joint manipulation and the breaking and dislocating the fingers.
Wasn't that the show where you took a common friend of ours who hadn't really seen a lot of wrestling and someone nearly fell on him?
Oh, the perils, everybody, of not being familiar with wrestling. One of our mutual friends, known as Vija on LMC, Phil, took him to my. It was my first live wrestling event as well, but I took him to because he was interested in seeing it. We were on the front row. Because it was like, hey, just get to a seat. But I think I'd paid out for like front row seats anyway for him. And there was a spot where it was very obviously there's going to be a dive into the crowd, into the chairs.
Oh no, he didn't know.
Bryce Spenville is going move, and my friend's sitting there, our friend Phil, and he's going, oh, this is really good. And I'm moo. I've gone. Everyone else around him is gone. And he's still sitting there and Bryce Renfrew's going, move! Because, there's a, incoming. Quite literally. And I just reached over and just grabbed him and pulled him out of the way. Before, 250 pounds of meat goes sailing over the top rope into the place where he previously had been sitting. So that was great. And afterwards he was like, "Oh yeah, it was really good." He's like, "You know how you like weren't moving?" It was like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, they would have missed me." He's like, "No, they wouldn't." No, they wouldn't. That guy was coming your way, whether you were moving or not.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
That
was such great fun, that show. But
but going back to Pete Dunne there, I mean, I've had the fortune of actually seeing him at a WWE live event with him.
Oh yeah,
with him defending the title against Wolfgang, a really good,
cool.
Scottish wrestler, and by God, that was a great match when I saw that live as well. So yeah, we can totally agree. Pete Dunne is awesome, and I would hope that one day, once he's done with the UK division and he drops the UK title to take either SmackDown or Raw on, hopefully we get some really good matches with him, with the likes with either Mustafa Ali or maybe Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles.
Owens,
If he, Owens, Owen Zane. It's like totally forgot.
Yeah,
coming back as well. So
Joe
I think
as well.
it's a shame that so many big names. We can say this recently, and this was a point I was going to get into after we talked about the Rumble. There are so many big names listed to come back, which you would have thought had been in the Rumble, and it would have boasted the star power massively. Not saying that everybody there wouldn't have done, but if you take out people like Kurt Hawkins, Titus O'Neil, No Way Jose, these guys that lasted less than 5 minutes in the Rumble and put in stuff like Kevin Owens.
I was going to say all the free agents ones, EC3, Lars Sullivan, even though we've known about Lars Sullivan's problems as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, for fans of them, I would like to assure you that Sanity are actually still under contract to WWE. Because
sure we had a discussion
none
about
of
tag teams on
them
SmackDown
were there.
recently.
Yeah, it was like exactly. Sanity are a part of that.
And Nikki Cross isn't even part of Sanity.
She's
supposedly.
technically a free agent. Apparently.
Technically,
Yeah.
Again, going back to the Women's Royal Rumble, WWE management were, quote, pleasantly surprised by Nikki Cross's reaction, which only goes to show that WWE management of the main roster, no clue. Of course she had a fantastic reaction. It's Nikki Cross.
I think it's just. I mean, we'll touch on the end of the show. We spoke about this a while back, and I think it was on the last show where it was the mixed match finals where we saw Carmella and R-Truth win, and we said there that we knew R-Truth having a 30 slot it wasn't going to make any impact, and well, he did have an impact against the side of a barricade as Nia Jax beat him up and took his spot.
Yeah, I was surprised that this was going to happen. A woman entering the men's Rumble match, even though they have a women's Rumble now.
And in this era.
Yeah.
They specifically bigged it up when Beth Phoenix was on commentary over the Women's Rumble, and they talked about the women who had entered the Men's
one.
Rumble. Yes, they mentioned China on commentary.
I was a bit surprised by that.
They also mentioned, obviously, Beth Phoenix had done it, and the name escapes me for the third.
Karma.
Thank you.
Karma.
They mentioned all the females who had entered the males rumble, so I kind of thought they were alluding to something, and it's obviously off the back of Rousey going into the women's that they thought they could pull off something. I don't think they had the reaction from Nia Jax doing it. I'm not sure. Obviously, Nia Jax was never going to win it, but it was definitely a reaction they got from her being in there. And the looks on the faces, I think, of Orton and Mysterio kind of sold.
Yeah,
What are
'cause,
you
like,
doing?
what
Are we
what
allowed to hit you? Like,
Yeah.
This was the moment they decided to finally recross the line. Because we discussed it. I discussed it last show with the Mixed Match Challenge and how hot tags meant absolutely nothing in the Mixed Match Challenge because when you the other person gets tagged out immediately anyway, regardless of what happens. So hot tags meant nothing because you can't have that connection because you'll upset the toy companies. My God, were they going to be upset after this one?
Yeah, I was going to say that the legal team back at Stanford, they were probably going, "What the heck is she in there? What is that? Oh my God, she got
all right, John. For God's sake, with our ears. But yeah, I'm willing to bet that wasn't run past them. The fact that you're right, Pete, in that the looks on their faces to like, can we actually it would have been an interesting way forward. Is actually that Nia Jax wins it because no one's legally allowed to touch her. It would be an interesting way forward. The sort of the cautious can we do this? And then eventually Mysterio, as they said on the commentary, just coming to terms with it in his head, just drop kick, just.
I did like the thing of Nia Jax putting Randy on the ropes and beckoning to Mysterio to go on, do it. It's your thing. Hit the guy.
Yeah, do your move.
I thought that was actually genuinely a funny moment. And then both.
It was a highlight. I would think Nia Jax showing up was definitely a highlight of that Rumble. And intergender wrestling. There's some within WWE. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy, but it's been handled really well outside of that. Lucha Underground,
Shikara, which I mentioned earlier.
You just treat it as matter of fact, and everyone's on the same. Everyone's on the same level. But it's just not something WWE has done regularly, and it's always gonna turn some heads and raise some eyebrows. But Nia Jax, she beat up R-Truth. She eliminates Mustafa Ali.
Almost permanently.
I want to say, she kicked enough butt to say, look, she can handle her own in there. This isn't some sort of domestic abuse situation.
No.
So when Rey Mysterio hits the 619 and then Orton
KOs,
it was pretty satisfying. And personally, I didn't feel too offended. I think ladies can handle themselves, and people shouldn't get so upset about it. We all know wrestling is.
That's the thing. That's the key thing. That's the key thing to take back into. Nia Jax knew she could handle herself in that situation. She could have easily said, "No, I don't want to do the spot. I don't want to do this."
Do you know what? I think they could even have done the same thing with Lynch and had Lynch go over in the men's one as the winner. I think that would have been because she goes on Twitter about
the man
tussling it up with the men as the man, and I think having Lynch do the men's one would have been way more interesting.
Well, she challenged Rollins. She challenged Rollins.
Super cool. Yeah.
She challenged Rollins already.
That pop would have been explosive if that happened.
That would have been...
Especially if she didn't show up in the Women's Rumble and everyone just kind of deflated.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty insane, but I don't think they're ready to give the win.
Did you hear what was it during the Women's Rumble for 29? Everybody was shouting, "We want Lynch, we want Becky," and number 29 wasn't Becky, and then obviously 30 was Carmella, So there was a massive chant of boos after it was, and everyone got really deflated. And then Becky comes out to take over from Lana, and everybody was like elated. Like, could you imagine the massive pop at number 30 for Lynch coming down? That would have been amazing. Like, I honestly think that the men's Royal Rumble was the weakest of the night for two reasons. One, it really put an exclamation point on how long the Rumble was. I was especially like, it was 4 o'clock in the morning for us. I'm not sure how late it was over there for you, Greg. But it was an exclamation point on how long the Rumble was after an already long day for the UK and European contingent anyway. But it's just, if you compare it to the women's Rumble of the same year, it's just not as good. The star power wasn't there. And it's not to shit on any of the men. They're all really good. And I've said it before. They do stuff that the 4 of us aren't going to do. Well, I can't speak for you, Greg, but I know about the rest of us.
Oh, you can speak for me.
You weren't doing any shooting star pressures in the writers' room, were you there, Greg? No.
Not lately, no.
But it felt like it lacked on star power compared to the women's one, and the women's one, just because there wasn't there was more comedic stuff in the men's and like short timed ones and everything else, and it could have been so much better just by getting some of those names back early instead of waiting post Mania to bring them back. And I think that's the kind of disappointing thing about it.
The women's Rumble, everybody had a moment. Everybody had something, even if it was it went out immediately.
What in the women's one?
Even Liv Morgan going out immediately, that had a purpose. It had a greater purpose as part of the story, and
because she would then return with Ruby Riott,
and
later.
It played into the Talia story versus the Riot Squad, and that continued throughout. There was something for everybody. Everybody had the little moment in the spotlight that I think was beneficial to them in some way. Whereas the men's Rumble, there was lots of people who were in, but then it didn't do anything.
In and out.
Didn't do anything for them in any way. So it just felt lacking in some way.
I think we're at a fine point to call it a day, unless anybody, John or Greg, you got anything to put a last finale point on the Rumble?
I would say the last thing is we didn't mention who won. Seth Rollins winning the Rumble. I mean, he's probably, I think he was an easy pick if you were looking at who was in there. Seth Rollins is definitely the guy you're kind of expecting to be one of the finals. Unfortunately, I think he's just kind of a boring choice. As talented as he is,
I think he's a safe choice.
Rumble, he's gonna safe choice. I mean, Rollins winning the Rumble, he's gonna fight in a WWE title match. Like, that's not the most exciting prospect. We've seen him do that a number of times in Fight Mania. So I mean, that's another thing that kind of deflates it a little bit. It's when you have a Royal Rumble, you want the crowd is rabid for or some kind of surprise. When those are the people who win, the Rumble is just that much better. So, and not taking anything away from Rollins' ability or star power, it just kind of feels like par for the course. Like
who would you have liked to have seen win, Greg?
My pick, and this is out of left field. I wanted to see Kofi Kingston win it. Then
finally pull the trigger on.
I only laugh because we've talked about the New Day going for mainline titles before, and it would be really good to see one of them do it.
Fun and fresh, because there's nothing left for them to do as a tag team. So move them into another division and keep them together. And
absolutely, don't break them up.
Freebird rule, or have them support Kofi. Or
they've always said that the New Day, the existence of the New Day, is to get Kofi Kingston to a main level belt title.
I really want to see a Freebird rule with the WWE Championship.
Oh, that would be madness! Absolute madness.
That would be fun to watch. John, you got anything to add on the men's Rumble before we go to the finale point?
Well, granted, I mean, I had some enjoyment with it, other than the rest of it, but I can definitely agree that if you were going into this to a long period, and this was like into hour 5 of this pay-per-view, and it was it did draw out a lot, and like I said, with what you could have had in there, could have made it a lot better and whatnot. And going to Greg's comment of who he thought would have been better to win the Rumble. Personally, myself, if Balor wasn't in the Universal Championship match and in the Rumble, and Seth Rollins was facing Lesnar in the Universal title match this night, I would have liked it if Finn Balor won the Rumble, so that way they could have built up that and him, and it'd be the Demon versus the Beast at Mania and whatnot and all like that. But they want to go with the angle where they have Rollins be the defending the honor of Roman Reigns and all that jazz. So
out of interest, Kev, who would have you wanted to have win it if it wasn't Seth?
Drew.
Yeah, I thought you might say that.
He had a really nice promo, by the way. I think it was in the pre-show, but it was a really nice little promo from him. Really.
I think I kind of agree with you about Drew winning it, but I think if it was anybody other than Seth winning it, I would have wanted them to go for the SmackDown title. Mostly because I feel, especially with Elimination Chamber coming up, it's going to be both SmackDown matches, and it'll be a women's Elimination Chamber for the championship, and it'll be a men's Elimination Chamber for the men's championship, because both of the Raw ones are going to be decided at Mania, and I have a feeling we're not going to see Lesnar until WrestleMania now.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, saying that, I mean, you say it would have been if they'd have gone for the SmackDown one.
If they'd gone for the SmackDown,
I'd have been quite happy with a triple threat Drew, AJ, Bryan. That'd be awesome.
But also, if it was Drew, if whoever won it went for the SmackDown Championship, and Lesnar wasn't going to turn up till Mania, you could then have the Elimination Chamber #1 contendership for the spot at WrestleMania to fight Lesnar, and then you could have Seth win that.
If Lesnar does turn up at Elimination Chamber, can he please not be in the chamber? I know they've changed the outside now, so it's not the metal anymore.
One, yeah.
It's sort of, I don't know, gym mats or something.
I just want to watch. I want Lesnar in the chamber for one reason and one reason only, because I want to see just the steam extrude from his body, and he's just in a fog box.
He comes out to his own special effect, produced by himself. Oh, dear.
I think that's a fun point to end it. And as usual, we normally go around the room and ask for scores out of 10. Mr. Greg, since you're new with us, I'd like to ask you, what would you give the Rumble a score out of 10?
I'll give the Rumble I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think it was a good show.
Fair enough. Good point. Mr. John.
I'm going to go a little higher and go with 8. I'm actually being very generous with it. I felt that overall, I did actually have a lot more fun with this. I mean, it's like it's still not going to be in NXT TakeOver status and whatnot, where I'm obviously going to give that so many higher regards. But I still actually enjoyed this year's Rumble. It was definitely very good Rumble this time around. This is probably like the second Rumble in a row where I've actually been content with what happened during the show.
Last year's Rumble was pretty good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that.
So, great, yeah.
Kev?
The card was well laid out for the first time in living memory, it feels like. But I concur with Greg. I'm going to say 7. It was entertaining. There was things that were lacking, and the men's Royal Rumble being slightly lackluster puts a big dent in that.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Again, the predictability just brings it down a notch as well. But as I said before, we're in the build up to WrestleMania where everything's pretty much going to be solid. Championships aren't really going to be changing hands now, except for the odd ones. Like we'll probably see the SmackDown Tag Championships lost between now and Mania to build up for that. And, a few here and there. But it's going to be nothing till Mania now. So the predictability is to be there. But the quality of matches was superb. I've got no arguments about the position of the card. Maybe switch the Rumbles around. But that would be about it, just because, as we've said, the men's Royal Rumble was a little bit lackluster. Otherwise, it was enjoyable. It really doesn't need to be 5 hours. WrestleMania, you're going to be 7 hours. I know you're going to be 7 hours. Kill me now. But let's just cut an hour out of Raw, put it down to 2 hours, put Raw and SmackDown on the network, give the extra hour, make your women's wrestling show, have that on the network. Fuck the US TV networks. I don't care. Fuck Sky. Fuck all of that. Put everything on the network.
Definitely Sky.
I happily pay for the network. I don't pay for Sky or anything else. I would happily just watch it live on the net. Well, not live, but a pre-recorded version on the network, so I can watch it at a reasonable time. Exactly. But TV networks get in the bin. And immediately you make the network more profitable because everybody can watch Raw and SmackDown live on the network.
Okay, Pete, before you continue on that tangent, what's your score?
I've already said my score.
He agreed 7.
I agreed with Kevin Greg.
Agreed.
So the average is 7.25, leaning on that with 3 7s and an 8. It's a very good score for us specifically. Normally it goes a little bit down, but it's a very good pay-per-view, and I fully expect Chamber Fastlane if it happens to be good. We do have Chamber next. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Socials, Mr. Greg, please, where can the people on the internet find you?
You can find me on Twitter at It's Greg Hahn. If you like toys and 80s, 90s toys and action figures, follow me on Instagram at It's Greg's Toys. And if you haven't watched Sonic Boom, or even if you have, it's available on Hulu in the United States. So watch all the episodes on there. I don't know where it is internationally, but I know it's floating around.
I don't think it's on a dedicated streaming site for the UK.
If only there was somewhere that should be telling us this information.
Yes. Anywhere else, Mr. Greg? Is that it?
No, that's it. I got some other stuff. Big announcements coming.
Ooh.
Other exciting projects coming. We'll see what happens. Follow me on Twitter and
definitely watch that. Yeah, definitely watch Mr. Greg's Twitter. The links to Greg's socials will be in the description box, and I'm sure Kevin's made some magic for you. Those watching the vidcast, that'll be on there for you as well. John, where can they find you on the socials?
Of course, with me, you can find me on Twitter at TurboXLR, as well as checking my live streams of gaming goodness every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday evenings on twitch.tv/TurboDrive Live.
Mr. Kev, where can they find you on the socials?
If you're watching this on YouTube, congratulations, you're already there. Alternatively, on Twitter, you can follow all of us as a group for Last Minute Kickouts at Faces in Peril, or you can find me individually at the Kevin Eva. Hence, Pete keeps saying that. But other than that, please do follow us, and if you aren't aware of it, there's a link somewhere so you can watch the video stuff.
Either in the YouTube's description or the iTunes or wherever you are listening to this magnificent.
We're on iTunes.
Yeah, we are on iTunes. You can find me at Titans Creed. You can find me streaming live on twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Those two are the places you can normally find me. We do have a last minute continued Discord where I believe there's a link for that somewhere, where you can come and join us and talk to us about wrestling and gaming and everything else. It's where we normally hang out. Again, Last Minute Kickout, if you listen to us on the not to the other page, we do have it on its new specified YouTube. YouTube.com/Last Minute Kickout, I believe, Kev?
Something like that.
There'll be a proper link somewhere.
If you're not sure, go to the Faces in Peril Twitter, and the link on that will take you to the YouTube.
Absolutely. This has been Last Minute Kickout, talking about the Royal Rumble 2019. I would like to say a very big thank you to our first guest, Mr. Greg Hahn. It's been an absolute pleasure having you and your intake.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
No worries. Thank you very much. As usual, thank you to my cohorts in crime, one Mr. John Turbo Finley.
Take care.
And one Mr. Kevin, the Kevin Eva. We'll find another nickname for him at some point, either.
Oh, I need a repackaging on my gimmick, everybody. Anyway.
That's it. He's going to take some time off, come back.
We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. And myself, Pete Titan Screen Never Go. Until the next time for Elimination Chamber, we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.